Alright, I'm experimenting with a slightly different format for these video lectures now. In this lecture, we're going to talk about Fit 3 of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And I want to try to get through it as quickly as possible. And so this is going to be pretty dense. Follow along, and feel free to ask me any questions in Slack or on the discussion board or by email. So Fit 3, I think I discussed this on Slack already with Sarah, but Fit 3 is where we switch from chivalric romance into, in some respects, fabliaux. Fabliaux is a very popular genre of medieval storytelling, which almost always involve marital infidelity and always involve a woman and her lover playing a trick on a husband. They're dirty, they're funny, they often involve physical comedy, and they also often involve a kind of simultaneous time frame where we witness the wife getting up to her shenanigans while the husband's doing something else. If you've ever read Chaucer's Miller's Tale, this is an example of a fabliaux. Another thing that we can see structuring this part 3, is the idea of repetition. Oops, I spelled that wrong. That should be repetition with variation. And repetition with variation is the structure, of a lot of jokes, a rabbi, a priest, a minister, or fairy tales, the first piggy builds its house out of whatever. And it also structures this part of the story where we're going to get a series of three temptations with 3 hunting scenes. What is this all about? It's about this game that Bertilak and Gawain have agreed to. In this game, Bertilak has said, I'm going to go hunting, you stay here and entertain my wife, and whatever I win during the day, I will give to you, and whatever you win during the day, you will give to me. My mentor, Al Shoaf, great professor, pointed out how this turns sexual favors in a way into a commodity that can be exchanged. There's a kind of mercantile idea here that puts a little bit of tension into the aristocratic, noble world of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And this could be a reflection of changes in English society at the end of the 14th century, where we're moving away more and more from traditional land-based wealth and more towards a mercantile, almost proto-capitalist economy. The host's game has turned sex into a tradable token, just as the Green Knight has turned death. Whoa. So, yeah, at the end of each day, Bertilak's going to be like, hey, here's the dead animal that I killed, and Gawain's going to be like, oh, here's the kiss I got, and these two bros are going to kiss. And there's not a small amount of writing on Gawain that explores the sort of queer, or at least homosocial angle here. And of course you could say it was common for men to kiss each other at the time, just as it still is in places like France and Eastern Europe. But nevertheless, it is a sort of tension, because these kisses are not simply kisses of peace or kisses of diplomatic greeting. This is an erotic kiss that is being transferred from Gawain, from Lady Bertilak to Bertilak. Maybe it's their thing. Who knows? Everybody's got a thing. Okay, so one of the big questions that we can ask is that one of the things that Gawain is famous for is politeness, right? And Fit 2, they say, oh, here's Gawain. He's going to talk to us about how great he's going to show us how great a knight from Arthur's court can talk, and especially love talk, right? So one of our questions is, does Gawain live up to the demands of courtesy? I love this image I found. For shame, Sir Knight, I come hither alone and sit at your side to learn of you some skill. Teach me of your wit while my lord is from home. So this is the image of the Lady Bertilak tempting Gawain, just like that from the manuscript image that's in your book, with a very humorous caption on page 210. All right, what then is politeness? What then is courtesy? This is something that's interested me personally in my own work a lot. I work on I've done research on medieval satire and the way that satirists writing at court address their superiors in a way that saves their face. And face is this idea we get from the from Chinese culture, but it's adapted into North American sociology by a guy named Irving Goffman. And face is this idea that when we interact with each other, we want to maintain a kind of ritual, social equilibrium. So, for example, if I'm in a meeting with all of my fellow professors and we're talking about stuff, like if I were to just like lean to the side and let a giant fart rip, if you'll excusing my way of putting it here, I would be not only sort of sacrificing my own face, making myself look bad, or sort of, lowering my own kind of social performance, but it's also a threat to the face of the people around me. It's also failing to sustain everybody's idealized image of themselves. And this is the more sort of courtly and rarefied a society is, the more strict and intense the rules are for this kind of cooperative exchange, for the way that people cooperate in maintaining each other's face. And so the lady comes in on the first day, and she sneaks in quietly and craftily. And I love this. This is as Sarah Ritley pointed out, hilarious. The knight felt nervous. Lying back, he assumed the shape of sleep. As she stole towards him with silent steps, then cast up the curtain and crept inside, then sat down softly at the side of his bed, and awaited his wakening for a good long while. Gawain lay still in his state of false sleep, turning over in his mind what this matter might mean, and where the lady's unlikely visit might lead. So, okay, here's our brave knight with his armor and his shield with a pentangle that's been described as a symbol of truth, and now he's got the first real challenge. And what's the first thing he does? He plays dead. He pretends to be asleep. So much for truth. But, he thinks about it, and he says, instead of this stealth, I should openly ask her what her actions imply. So he wakes up and talks to her with unruffled courtesy. I think he's a little ruffled, personally. And she basically tries to seduce him. She says, at lines in the wheel, in line 1236, "You are free to have my all. Do with me what you will. I'll come just as you call and swear to serve you well." So we're kind of playing with the courtly love idea here, with the whole chivalric romance thing, when the lady's like throwing herself at the dude. That's not how it's supposed to work. One of the things about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight that makes it such a fun work is that it's a sophisticated work. It's not at the beginning of a tradition. It's when a tradition is going on for centuries, and the readers, the listeners of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, know what courtly love is about. They know how this stuff is supposed to work, and so they can laugh and be amused when the poet changes it up and makes it work a little different than it should be. And so Gawain is in a situation that he doesn't imagine that he would be. And so we see him very gracefully parry her, resisting her without offending her, saving her grace, saving her face and her grace. He says, "I don't dare to receive the respect you describe, and in no way warrant such worthy words. But by God I'll be glad if you give me the right to serve your desires, and with action or speech bring you perfect pleasure. It would be pure faith, pure joy." And so they chat, and they're all courteous, and they're all knightly, and she's all ladylike and stuff like that. And then she says at the end, "I know that Gawain could never be your name," before she leaves. Line 1293. "You're not Gawain." Threat to his identity, his very name. Isn't that strange? Why not? The knight asked nervously, afraid that some fault in his manners had failed him. The beautiful woman blessed him, then rebuked him. A good man like Gawain, so greatly regarded, the embodiment of courtliness to the bones of his being, could never have lingered so long with a lady without craving a kiss, as politeness requires, or coaxing a kiss with his closing words. Oh, is that it? Okay, that's fine. Kiss, kiss. And so then we get a switch to this extensive description of a hunt, including the field dressing of a deer, which is, gorier than you usually find in heroic poetry. Some people have talked about how this description of the deer being ripped open and its spine being torn out and all this stuff speaks to the vulnerability of the body and makes us recall maybe the naked Gawain laying in bed, being exposed, vulnerable to the mortal danger not of the hunt, but of sin. The sin of sexual sin. Here's a medieval image of a hunt going on. A hunt was really important to aristocratic life in the Middle Ages and the early modern period. They loved hunting, and hunting in this period was not like you and your camo behind your blind, like just with your buddy. It was like a huge social event, hundreds of people, horses, dogs. Think like the British hunt where they got the red coats on and there's like the blowing horns and stuff like that, and chasing a fox or whatever. The first day they get a deer, and later that night when they're back together, they're going to exchange what they're giving, and the master Bertilak gives you the deer, and he says, give me what you have, give me what you got. And so he gives him a kiss, and the Lord says, we're at 1392 now, I'm grateful, said the Lord, and Gawain, this gift would carry more worth if you cared to confess by what you won it, and when, and where. That wasn't our pact, he replied, so don't pry. You'll be given nothing greater, the agreement we have holds good. Now, if nobility, courtliness, is about generosity, openness, freeness, truth, this kind of narrow legalism, no, that wasn't part of our deal, maybe it's a bit of a falling off, maybe not, maybe it's just part of the game. It's one of the many sort of problems or questions that Sir Gawain and the Green Knight presents. All right, on to day 2. Very briefly, this debate, the conversation between Gawain and the lady that morning is a little bit more intense. One thing I like is that this morning he's like wide awake and waiting for her. He's like, "Hi, what's up?" And it's described her identity. He challenges her identity again, saying that he should be better. I encourage you to kiss and to claim one quickly when one is required, 1490, an act which ennobles any knight worth the name. Dear lady, said the other, don't think such a thing. I dare not kiss in case I am turned down. If refused, I'd be at fault for offering in the first place. Well, that's, I guess, graceful. In truth, she told him, you cannot be turned down. Now, this is weird, huh? If someone were so snooty as to snub your advance, a man like you has the means of your muscles. Whoa. She's basically saying, like, you're strong enough to take what you want. She is challenging him to rape her, essentially. He refuses. Yes, by God, said Gawain, what you say holds good, but such heavy-handedness is frowned on in my homeland, and so is any gift not given with grace. This is an essential part of chivalry. For all that chivalry is bad, that maybe some good things come out of it. This is the idea of consent is not new. It was not invented in the 20th century. The idea of consent goes back many millennia. And it's, the flip side of the concept of rape. But he's basically saying, no, I don't do that. I will not accept any gift not freely given. What kiss you command, I will courteously supply. Have what you want or hold off, whichever is the case. They're just a little saltier on day 2. A little more threatening to each other, a little more snippy. And this resonates with the animal sequence in day 2. But I'll let you think about why that might be. On day 3, they're hunting a fox, and she comes in wearing almost naked, except in some kind of lacy thing with a fur. The fur recalls the fox. It's also a frankly erotic self-presentation that she brings. This day she really lays it on thick, and she declares that she's She wants him to be her lover, and she offers him a ring. He says, I can't give you a ring. I got nothing. I'm going to go away here. I'm going to get my head chopped off in 5 days. I can't give you anything back, so I can't accept a gift, right? Gifts have to be part of a reciprocal system of exchange. Remember reciprocity in Beowulf? Also going on here. I can't give you that. She's like, okay, fine, don't take my ring. Well, why don't you just take this girdle I have? It's not worth that much. Except for you, it might be worth quite a lot, because this is a magic girdle that can keep you from getting hurt. Ooh, Gawain's interested now. He's interested. He accepts. He accepts this. And she says, oh, under one condition, you have to keep it secret. You can't tell anyone. And so, that night, when they get together again, where are we? 1934. Bertilak comes back from the hunt, and Gawain's gonna try to get in front of the situation, because he knows he has something that he wants to keep. He doesn't want to turn it over to Bertilak. Not for this little, like, game they're playing of, I'll give you what I have if you give me what you have, when this is something that could save him when his very life is on the line. So he gets out in front of it. He says, I shall first fulfill our formal agreement which we fixed in words when the drink flowed freely. He clasps him tight and kisses him 3 times with as much emotion as a man could muster. By the Almighty, said the master, you must have had luck to profit such a prize, if the price was right. Oh, fiddlesticks to the fee, said the other fellow, as long as I have given the goods which I gained. By Mary, said the master, mine's a miserable match. I've hunted for hours with nothing to my name but this foul, stinking fox. This is the final exchange with Bertilak, and they go to bed, and at this point, Gawain's going to have to get up and go and find the Chapel of the Green Knight, which he has already been told isn't far from Bertilak's castle. So next week we're going to talk about that and see how that goes. In the meantime, get in the forums to discuss this poem, take the quiz, and get on Slack to talk about it. I'd love to answer any questions you have. I hope you're enjoying this poem. It's a really interesting and socially, morally complex one, and it's a funny, well-paced story, too, in my opinion. But it's just me. I think this is one of the great treasures of Middle English literature. We are very lucky that it survives, if only in one manuscript. See ya.